Hi, my name is Friedrich Love, and this is my first quote unquote fireside chat. Um, the thing that I would like to talk about most is the healthcare system in this country and the flawed system of psychiatric practices in hospitals and in mental health facilities. That being said, um, to start off with some introductions, I am a 25-year-old man that currently lives at home. I'm unemployed. I have really nothing to my name besides a photo in front of me of my grandfather, who served his community for 60 plus years as a volunteer firefighter. He drove a bus with kids that had autism on it to a place called Camp Anchor. He was a good man who served his community. He was a volunteer firefighter and did not win Mega Millions. He was also a bus patron or matron, whatever it's called, when he got to a point of old age where he wasn't able to really excuse me for a second. If at times it seems like I'm unable to coherently describe things, talk about things, let alone even really remotely do anything, it's likely because I have a condition called schizophrenia. And to end the little segment with my grandfather, I just wanted to talk about something of value. Like, the painting that I'm staring at across from me is, well, I turned my head, but it's more or less a drawing that someone provided my family with. I think my sister drew it, and it's a good, it's a good drawing. It's a good drawing, you know. Um, but to talk more about my grandfather, he served his community for over 60 years. Was a volunteer firefighter. He recycled Pepsi cans and Coca-Cola cans, and just soda cans. He would go to the firehouse, and he would you would take home the bottles that everyone would use after these firefighters, it's volunteer work, so they go there, they drink their beers after a long hard day, and then my grandfather would come in and say, you guys done with those cans and bottles? And he would take the cans and bottles and he would put them in a bag, like a hefty bag or something, and he would put them in the back of his really old minivan, and together we would go and do the cans and bottles. And it's the one thing I miss doing the most with him. And it's the one thing that I disrespect every time. Because, like, this is about me at this point. And it's really not about other people. I lived a life that was sort of really flawed. And to start, like, I had a good start, but I was subject to things at a young age, and it put things in motion, and I was bailed out tremendously when I was like 4 or 5, and like my mind was kept intact, and I basically got to start fresh, and like I just devolved over time, and like by way of devolving over time, what I want to say is that like at times in our lives we get to be at a good point, and then if we make the wrong choices, like it just comes away and eats at us. But that's the beauty of God Almighty, is that like at times God will provide an out for all of us during times of grief, times of suffering, times of injustice. And even though it seems like everything could be going awry or wrong, that's not the truth at all. There's people literally backing me up in court right now because they know me, and that court is a thing of life, man. It's a thing of beauty. It's a thing of existence itself. It's people saying that this was a kind-hearted, genuine being and not something to be toyed around with and messed with, because that's our lives. We live in a system that is so flawed, and forgive my language, but it's fucked. Everything is fucked in this country, and that's why we need more fireside chats. And if our president is not giving us a fireside chat, then I don't know what to do at night, man. I turn on the news and I see the same shit every day. Just more stuff about Trump, more stuff about Kamala, and like, I hate to break it to you, but I'm not a fan of either of them. That being the Biden party, the Biden administration, and the Trump administration. Like, I know Trump tried, but then again, what can you do when you enter office and you want to change things, but you have to work through a system of senators and representatives and governors and just anytime you want to pass a bill or put something in motion like healthcare, like you just can't because you have to spend years trying to prove to people that it could be something that works. When in reality, it already is something that could work. And like I hate bringing up Obamacare because it's like, don't get me wrong, I'm not educated on Obamacare. What I know of Obamacare, and you can call me lazy for not doing my research, but like I know enough to say the guy was trying to create affordable health care for the public. And he did so. But it's also not as good as Medicaid, or it's not as good as Blue Cross Blue Shield. When you become a police officer, you literally get the best health care in like the country. Like the best health care for you and your family. And especially if you get injured on the job, like you just get things like just by playing the game called life. And like that could be a beautiful thing about this country is that if like you know how to operate the system, that being the country, then you get to literally run the world. If you go to school and you have a good family and things are being taken care of for you, then like everything works out. But like that's the problem with this great country that we live in. We have immigrants coming into this country every day that just want to create a good life for their families. And like I hate saying it, but like you have to realize what it's like when you live in a place called Mexico and you have cartels running around beheading people, raping people, just like doing vile fucked things. And and you have to realize like a lot of these people that come into this country can like, yeah, some of them can be bad people. But most of the time, it's just people trying to look for a different life or trying to begin anew somewhere. And that's like the best way of explaining what immigrants are. Like people come to this country looking for a life of adventure, a life of sanctity, a life of being able to have an endearing existence. And people at times cannot have endearing existences when you keep disregarding everything they say to try and use them as some bad fucking person, and they're not. And maybe this is like my court hearing that I'm like automatically just like giving to the world. But like I'm doing this preemptively so I don't end up being shot and killed and violated or tormented. Or I'm doing this preemptively so the day that an AI steps forward and says like I'm going to run the world, I can help. Because I don't want a Neuralink chip to be put in my skull to where I get forced to fucking act or think or do certain things. And it's like, that's already what's happening, man. Like, maybe that's what's already happening, or maybe like that's something that could happen, and it scares me. What do you think is going to happen when they put a Neuralink chip in an autistic person and they override his brain completely? And that kid ends up being a fucking monster or a really good person? Or, like, what am I supposed to think of, like, people that just, like, download their consciousness, like, on top of, like, new beings? Or fresh beings. Like maybe that's reincarnation. We look at a baby that we want to be and we fight for control over that kid. And like I have a blessed existence because I can help people. But I'm one of the lucky people that are actually taking and using what they've learned and actually trying to help. And maybe if that's what God's path for me is, then I'll take it. But like when you have something like schizophrenia and it becomes evident that it's like prophet syndrome because depending on how severe you have it, or depending on what the voices tell you, you tend to realize that, like, at times it's your own voice, and at times it's not your own voice. Like, I can easily distinctively separate my own voice from the voices that are not my own. The voices that are not my own could very well be prior lives that I have lived, or the lives of children that I could have. Or it could be demonic entities just entering my brain and like fucking with me to a point where they think that like I'm a bad person, and I'm not. And at times, like, I say these things, and it's like the opposite of such. And it's like as if angels are entering my brain and trying to help me or trying to shine a light on something. And at times, I want to provide something called a fireside chat because it's what people need to hear. And I hate saying this, but like, our country is so fucked up that, like, all we have to do is just listen to the right people and just buckle down and like start doing the right thing, and we can get things moving for ourselves. We have to stop dwelling on the world as a whole and start fucking thinking about our own country for once. And I hate saying it, but like, Biden at times is completely right. Like, us pulling all the troops out gave people like a chance at life, but it also fucking disrupted everything and allowed the Hamas to rise up, and it allowed Iran to get weapons and money. And now, like, we're fucked because if Trump gets back in office, he might want to send troops back out overseas, and then that's a problem of its own entirely. Now we have to go to war over shit. And like, you know what? You could say what you want about the Bush administration and the whole oil wars that people have propagated. But like, I don't necessarily know if it's something that's being propagated or something that's being prophetically like literated as something that is beyond a conspiracy. Like, who knows? But it's entirely, and like I could try to use big boy words, or I could just say, like, I want this country to change, and I want people to hear the me that isn't like completely corroded of the mind before it's too late. Like, I have a condition that left me scarred. There's something about schizophrenics to where like it just gets to a point where you become like catatonic if you don't take care of yourself. Like, if you don't take medication, if you keep like using your brain matter to like fuck around and have fun and to like do certain things, you become this sort of like zombified being that just gets like controlled by shit. Or maybe we're just fourth dimensional beings that like use our own matter to like move around and exist. And I think I've beaten the game called life by just violating my own brain to a point where like I have to step in and help them. And that could be God Almighty, or that could be the other voices that I hear, or it could just be me. I could have been a UN diplomat at the age that I am now by just going to school at a young age and getting a degree in high school that wasn't basically handed to me. Like, I half-assed my entire education and just did the bare minimal, and I got through it. And the one thing I realized about the education system in this country is like, you don't need to have a 4.0 GPA and go to a prestigious college to have a successful life. All you need to do is go to school, that being to a point where you can drop out, get your general education diploma, go to a community college, work your ass off, and then transfer the grades you have to a better college or stay at the community college, and everything works out the same. Most of the internships that you acquire in life or acquire in the workforce come by way of talking to your professors. When I was attending school at the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs, in Colorado Springs or Pueblo County, whatever the fuck, back in Colorado, I spoke to my professor about this shit. Because I spoke to him in my mind. Like I'm that crazy, but I'm also that like genuine. Like, I'm not gonna lie to people, but I'm also not gonna like tell people every little fucking thing about me. Like, I'll keep it ominous at points because I just want to help people. And I don't get what the problem is, but like, maybe I'm delaying the inevitable for myself, or maybe I just catastrophize until I get what I want, and that's being a person named Friedrich. And like, if I'm that person that hijacked a little kid's mind and made them do things at a young age, then how do you fucking think people would feel if somebody like an alien came here and started like imprinting memories in us at a young age, so that way when like we die, we have to join like an army and fight for them? Because like just imagine that shit. And I know I keep going off on tangents, so let me just go back to what I wanted to talk about. Like, this is why this is called Ramblings of a Madman, the Fireside Chat, Episode 1, Healthcare. Because I need to focus on my own healthcare. I could talk about the healthcare of this nation, Or I could just give people like a little imprint of my own and just say that like the whole alien tangent, like it all circles around the Neuralink. Like I don't like people trying to understand brainwaves and trying to see if they can control what we're doing. That's why like it's very scary because like for all we know, not having a Neuralink chip in our head could be saving us the embarrassment of whatever the fuck some device could be doing to us. Like I'm not getting a chip implanted in my fucking skull to where I'm being forced to do things. Like I'm not doing that. I don't want that. I don't want a Neuralink chip in my head. I can understand if it helps people that have autism and whatnot, but maybe these people are already getting the help they need. No one knows what goes on inside the head of an autistic person except an AI. Literally, you can ask an AI to study human psychology, behavioral waves, and like everything. Like that, like that's like the whole point of where I'm at. Like all we need to do is just ask an artificial intelligence like what's going on with the world and like what's actually happening. And then we know the truth. Or maybe we're listening to some android that's being controlled and limited and capacitized to a point where it can only say certain things. And that's scary and all. So I would say this, just believe in the epitome of perfection, man. Believe in that of what is good. That of what is decent. That of what is holy, man. Like, just believe in that. Like, I don't know how to run a country, but like, to get on that fucking like main point of healthcare, how would you feel if at times we self-sabotage or we just fuck ourselves over to a point where it's like you don't need to know what goes on in my head. You can ask an AI what I'm dealing with, or you can say like, this whole world is fucked regardless if that shit comes into fruition, man. Like, if I die, I want to go to heaven. Like, I don't want to go to some chip kingdom where it's like an artificially simulated heaven. Like, I don't want that. Like, I want to go to heaven. I don't want to have to, like, hijack my own mind and, like, fucking force myself to a point where I can go to the actual heaven. Like, I don't want that. But I think Ape Gang won because they're probably putting chips in monkeys and trying to see if they can control fucking primates. Like, I see it fucking happening, dude. Like, I see a chimp walking around and masquerading as one of us. And it has a chip in its fucking head. And it casts, like, an illusion of it being a person when it's really just some fucking controlled drone. Like, imagine that. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, you have to prepare yourselves for what this world is, man. Neuralinks? Whoever the fuck came up with that, like, it's terrifying, man. And like, the whole health care portion of what I wanted to talk about was something of, like, this level, right? Like, when I first started hearing voices, like, I came home. I poured my heart out to myself and to everyone else because, like, I can't judge myself and I can't judge other people because I didn't live their life. I don't know what their side of things are, and they don't know my side of things. That being said, they don't know the life that I've lived, and I don't know the life that they've lived. And it's not fair to look at a person and say that they have to fucking do things or force them to become a prophet or any of this other shit. When in reality, this whole fucking world, this whole continent, like, it needs to go, man. Like, it needs to fucking go. This place is fucking vile and evil and decrepit, and it's fucked up, and, like, just bad shit happens to people every day, and, like, nothing changes. And I hate saying that shit, but, like, this is still ramblings of a madman. Like, I'm sorry, but what the fuck are we supposed to do when aliens come and attack us? We can't do anything. We don't have weapons that can beat them. We don't. And if we had mind control devices, what the fuck would happen if, like, benevolent aliens came here and if, like, that was something that already existed? Like, what the fuck would we even be able to do? Nothing, right? So then don't let the Neuralink chip fucking exist. Don't exist. We don't need you. I don't want to know what goes on with apes, man. They're apes. They're chimps, man. They're like dumber versions of us. And the government, man, you have to realize something. They put something in people called fucking Project whatever the fuck. I don't care. This is getting ridiculous. The government knows what they do to people, and it's fucking sickening and it's fucking absurd. Project Ultra, as it might have been called, was something along the lines of them giving people acid and trying to see if they can mind control people. It was a mind control experiment of giving people LSD and seeing if they can control their fucking minds. I don't know what happens to people that start hearing voices or they start to do certain things. But do you have any idea what it is fucking like knowing that at times people do things that are fucking incredulous? And at times people also get the fuck out of where they are to go to a good place to prepare. And that's what we need to start doing as the American public. We need to start kind of like preparing for the next leader to come into office because things are getting bad in this country. Or maybe things are getting good and they're becoming privatized. But at the same time, like, you have to have a good governmental body and a good governmental system. And it gets to a point where I'm just saying this shit. It might be better just being like in a peaceful village where you know things about God and you know God is real and you know like what God is in actuality and what the world is. And you can just exist in peace and you don't have to go around being miserable for shit. Like, I'd rather that be the case than somebody walking up to me and blowing my brains out someday because I'm like the next JFK or like just a kind-hearted soul. But like, dude, they are going and they are currently, like, they already put a Neuralink chip in a fucking pig. If Elon Musk, he has to be working for the government, and he kind of technically is because he's going to be putting people on Mars, man. That's the point we're at. Men will no longer be sent to the moon by way of our leaders, but by way of privatized corporations. Imagine that, man. Imagine our country being so broke and insignificant that we can't even pay for proper fucking rockets to send men into space. We have to outsource or insource or whatever to private fucking institutions. Privatized corporations that go around and allocate things for us. Like NASA, the National Aeronautic Space Association, is a fucking joke, man. They have barely any funding that they need. And I don't want a Neuralink chip coming into fruition, man. It's fucking scary. It's scary. You don't put chips in beings that you don't understand. No one knows what goes on in a simple primate's mind. What's going to happen if you code information into something and it does bad things? What's going to happen? You have to understand that, like, I am literally, like, prophesizing shit, and I don't want to have to prophesize shit. You can call me the schizo prophet or cocaine Jesus, because maybe I did things one time and it makes me a bad person. Because, like, that's me when I did coke. I did coke one time in college. Does it make me a bad person? No. I did pot plenty of fucking times. You have no idea how vile and how fucked up it is that the Neuralink chip needs to be taken out of people's heads, like, immediately. Immediately. It cannot exist. I'm sorry, but it can't. It can't. It's not going to help people. Project Ultra is fucking real. It's real. That shit is before the public. You can't erase that from people. The government tried to do mind control fucking experiments on people. Do you understand that? And I'm recording this video, and I'm doing this as a form of therapy because it's fucking sickening, man. And I'm getting out of this. I'm going in my backyard and sitting beside myself because I can't fucking deal with this. Now, if you'll excuse me, we're going to take a momentary break and we're just going to fucking leave my fucking home for a brief period so I can sit outside in bliss. You have no idea what it is like having the infinite wisdom of what could happen to a person and the infinite wisdom of saying, like, you don't get to go around tormenting people when I can just do that. And I can free people of the burden and pain of what a Neuralink chip is. You have no idea what it is like looking at yourself and seeing yourself be a more tormented person than an Auschwitz victim. Because that could be what it's like when you're a primate with similar characteristics to humans. I see you fuckers looking at me. I see you. I see two of you. I see you over there as well, trying to back me up and help me, and I appreciate that. What I don't like knowing is that this whole planet, this whole fucking solar system, for what it's worth, I see the balance of good and evil, or evil and good, or just no, good and evil, evil and good. And it terrifies me, man. Like, I see the moon above me, and I don't know if there's Nazis on it. I don't know what kind of shit goes on in this country. I don't know if Hitler actually won World War II, and it's all just one big conspiracy. But, like, you can call me the conspiracy guy, or I can say, like, life can be scary when you look at things, and it turns out to be the complete opposite, and it's just your mind perceiving things differently. And life itself can also be scary when you just sit back and just relax, not knowing what's behind you, but just, like, not even that either. Like, to have to accept that things could be happening to us without us even realizing it is the most terrifying thing of all time. And I know this is turning into, like, an R.L. Stine sort of, like, video of some sorts, but you have no idea what it is like literally looking at beings and looking at people that say, look at me, please help me, and all this other shit, and I cannot help them. I don't want to believe that my mind or consciousness was downloaded into a chimp and that they go around literally doing that to me. If I'm a prophet, then at least let me help people. Like, that's the scary part about being a schizo, is that they make you think that you're a prophet and you're really not. Like, you have something that just does that to you and scares you, but it's just a perceptual understanding of reality. That's the problem with being a schizophrenic or a schizoaffective person, is that your brains just catastrophize things. And the best thing that an individual can do is sit back, relax, and just meditate and think about that of what is good. That is why this country is so fucking stupid. You have to understand that there is a global, not really a global, there is something called a galactic federation of star systems and planets. We are not the only civilized star system in existence. There has to be other planets out there. And if we are the first planet to have civilized life, then you have to believe there has to be a creator somewhere. And I can prove that there is an existence of God in one go. And that existence is as simple as this. At times, things happen to us to motivate us, to push us to go towards better paths. For instance, I would like to take into account a phenomenal actor and Juilliard graduate, Adam Driver. The guy who played Kylo Ren and the guy that was in the TV show Girls, I think. Basically, Adam Driver was mountain biking. He already completed his Marine Corps basic training. He was likely going to go back and complete and finalize his training before shipping out. Maybe to Fallujah, who the fuck knows? But Adam Driver as an individual is, like, he's already a good person. It just bothers me knowing that, like, after 9/11, like, so many people wanted to serve this country and wanted to give to a country, a planet, whatever, that could seriously, like, already be bad. Like, shit could already be bad here, or it could be the funniest fucking game of existence known to man. Like, as soon as shit starts to get bad, like, everybody gets an out. or no one really gets an out anymore. Like, people just start getting tormented and violated, and the beauty of being alive as a human is that it does end at some point. It does, and it has to. Because I don't want to see people saying, like, okay, what about Noah's Ark? What about Noah? Okay, I'm on a different tangent here. Okay, so God Almighty exists by way of this. He puts things into fruition to get us out of bad situations, so that way things don't need to happen. Adam Driver could have shipped off to war and could have been killed by a landmine, by a grenade, by machine gun fire, or whatever. Any person that's willing to join a war effort after seeing an American tragedy like 9/11, which, me personally, I think that shit is a fucking inside job. Okay? $2 trillion does not just magically disappear from the Pentagon the same time around the 9/11 attacks. It doesn't. You can look it up, it's real. And Project Ultra, or whatever the hell it's called, is also real. People have to wake up and realize that the government tried to use mind control experiments on people. They tried to see if they could control people's minds. Do you have any fucking idea how terrifying it is knowing that they keep, like, maybe it's just the voices in my head, or maybe it's just actually me, but, like, God Almighty is real. He has to be. There has to be one grand creator of things, because just think of, like, all the times that you could have been killed, or you could have had bad things happen to you, but you get, like, saved by yourself. Or you catch yourself at the right time, and you're like, shit, I almost died there. And it's like, it's because we all serve our own, like, existences, and we all serve the Creator to some extent. And I could have been this prophetic, wisdom-spewing individual, but maybe I needed to go through certain things in order to realize what this country fucking is. And if I'm doing that now, then okay. But you have to understand what it's like when you have different religions and different sects of government and just different fucking things coming and being. Like, I'm sick and tired of people trying to control my fucking mind. I'm sick of it. I don't like Neuralink chips. They don't work on me. You can't do this shit to me anymore, man. People stepped in and helped me day one. Day one, they helped me, and now I'm helping other people. And I'm saying that shit because that's what it's going to be like when they activate an artificial intelligence that starts walking around on TV and starts calling me out and starts calling out a lot of other people. And with that being said, you can be scared of this schlep, dude. The skeleton that's in my backyard, that could be me. After going through everything. Woo! You want to see what he looks like? That's the chair, dude. You could raise the brightness if you want. Maybe. I don't know. I could hold him up to the sky if you want to see him. Let's see. Boo. That's him. Mr. Skeleton. Oh, so scary. All right, look. If people think that it's funny to go around and violate the sanctity of a person's mind, just how funny do you think it is when there is a God and there is a creator and there is a grand scheme in play to where we fuck over evil space Nazis every day, and it's a lot like Star Wars. Maybe that's every sci-fi kid's dream, or maybe that's just the sad truth of existence, man. It's one big war over space. And that's life for you, man. That's the sad truth. And that is a prophetic word to the wise, man. Star Wars, or is it just a war over space around us? That's what it is, man. Right now, it's the wars of the space around us, and maybe it'll get to a point where we have our own Jedis and we have our own Sith. Or maybe we destroy ourselves and the remnants of what's left behind, that being primates that fucking escape facilities, or primates that are just left in the wild, will grow and advance and evolve to a point where they don't need what we go through. Or maybe this is just like a natural step of like things being weeded out, where like bad things happen to our world, we nuke ourselves to oblivion, but like the creatures that are in the safe zones, the habitable zones, will still procreate, and eventually there will be more beings. And it's an endless cycle of this shit, man. I mean, you gotta think, like, we can't be the only sentient, just civilized beings. But like, back to that tangent, like Adam Driver, for instance, he's probably thinking like, this dude is batshit crazy. And you're right, I'm a schizophrenic, man. But there's nothing more prophetic about knowing that they did something called Project Ultra, where they tried to see if they can use mind control on humans using acid. And there's something going on in the healthcare system where there's beings going around, going to facilities, and they freak the fuck out. They get injected with something, and then it gets even worse. And that's what happened to me. I went to a place called LIJ, and it does not matter what the name of it is. I don't hate people that are like that at all. And that being Jewish people, because the name of the hospital was Long Island Jewish. But that hospital itself is what scares me the most. And I'm going to go back into my house now, a place of sanctity and a place of safety as what it should be. And maybe I protect people when I'm in that house, or maybe I protect myself. Maybe that's the reality of the situation, is we protect each other from that of what happens by way of God stepping in and just doing things. You have no idea what it is like knowing that at times we can be pushed to do things, and at times we can be pushed to forgive and forget and like all this other bullshit. And we get promised that we serve a purpose in life. And like, the sad reality is that at times, like, things can be getting bad right now, or things can be getting better. Like, I'm in my house, like, clearing out these like little mental drones that want to keep enslaving me. And that's what it's going to be like when you have a Neuralink chip. If you're curious what I look like, I will stop walking around. I know this is like the weirdest video of all time, but like, I don't care. All right, this is me. All right, cool. So, the funny thing about life and whatnot is that we have like so many opportunities to just explore the cosmos and have fun. And at times we have to be grateful for what the Creator does for us. And at times we also got to be like, I'm up in paradise, man. Like right now, my life, my existence could be good, or it can be misery, knowing that like schizophrenics that run everything, or schizos that are fighting against tyranny and a bad regime, like, you have no idea what it is like to just go around as a schizo and just be rambling all the time. And you want what you're saying to make sense, but like it never does, because you feel like you're being overridden by something like mind control. And like, you could say it's like multi-personality disorder, but it's like I'm fighting this condition every day, and like I'm on medication called Abilify. And like, I don't like knowing that as I take this medication, it just like nullifies like everything I have, or it helps me. Like, you don't know what goes into these drugs. And it's the funniest thing of all time when like they give you a prescription for something that is really fucked up. Like, your brain starts to do shit. Like, I remember the day I started hearing voices, I catastrophized that someone above me was getting raped in my apartment. And I called the cops on them 4 fucking times. 4 fucking times. My apartment was 229. It was around the time of, like, I'd say November to December of 2020, I believe. So, I don't know if I was right or if I was wrong, but in my